Nicholas walked slowly down the narrow country road, holding the dirty piece of paper tightly in his hand. In the distance, he could see Buster standing against the wall, smoking a cigarette. Nicholas was frightened. He knew he was in Buster's territory, and that Buster would probably hit him for being there. As usual, Buster was not alone. Louise and Driscoll, two of his closest friends, stood waiting for orders. Nicholas knew he was in trouble. Buster always wanted to show that he was the boss.
"Look, there's Rabbit."
Nicholas stopped suddenly as the three boys ran towards him. Buster threw down his cigarette. He blew the last of the smoke into Nicholas' face.
"Are you deaf or just stupid? Hey, Rabbit."
Nicholas coughed as the disgusting smoke filled his nostrils. He felt a sudden blow to the side of his face. His cheek hurt and he wanted to cry, but he made himself stop.
"You're trespassing, Rabbit,"
Driscoll continued.
"I've told you to keep away from here."
The boys surrounded him, and a heavy hand pushed him to the ground. Nicholas covered his head with his arms and closed his eyes, waiting for the blows.
"What's this? Looks like a map. That's old Simpson's garden. Yeah, but what are all those crosses for?"
Nicholas opened his eyes and lifted his head. Buster was holding the piece of paper he had dropped.
"Hey, Rabbit, whose map is this? What's it for?"
Buster grabbed Nicholas by the arm and pulled him up. Nicholas kept his head down and didn't answer.
"Come on, tell me before—"
Buster pushed Nicholas against the wall.
Okay, it's the map of Simpson's garden," he answered reluctantly. "I can see that, you idiot. What are you doing with it?"
Once again, Nicholas refused to speak. The three bullies stood over him, and he knew that they were waiting for an answer.
"It's a map of Simpson's buried treasure, but it's only a legend. Nobody believes that it really exists,"
he said.
"Oh, no. Then where were you going?"
Louis replied.
"Yeah, that's why you had the nerve to pass through here. You're hoping to find the treasure yourself." "I heard about that treasure,"
added Driscoll.
"They say that old Simpson buried a fortune in his garden before he died." "Oh, no, it's only a legend. And nobody really believes that story."
Another blow made Nicholas fall to the ground. His arm ached.
"Sure, I'll be the judge of that,"
Buster said, smiling to the others.
"Now, get lost."
Nicholas stood up and moved away.
"Go on, run," Louis yelled, laughing.
Nicholas ran as fast as he could. Laughter and cries of
"Run, Rabbit, run,"
came from behind him. Once he turned the corner, he stopped to catch his breath and waited. As expected, the three boys were walking towards old Simpson's house, chatting together excitedly. They didn't know that Nicholas was following them. When the small group entered the garden, Nicholas crept into a large hole in the hedge of the house next door. Here, he could watch the boys without the risk of being discovered.
"Oh, no,"
Buster exclaimed, his face falling. The garden was really overgrown with grass and weeds everywhere.
"How can we dig for treasure if we can't see where we're digging?"
Louis asked, kicking at some weeds.
"We'll have to cut the grass first," Buster announced. "You two, go and get some gardening tools and a lawnmower. Don't forget the spades."
Louise and Driscoll disappeared and left Buster alone in the garden. Nicholas knelt down to rest his tired legs and prepared himself for a long wait. The wind blew through the hedge, and a large grey cloud blocked out the last rays of the sun. He looked up and realized that it was going to rain.
"Come on,"
Buster exclaimed as the two boys struggled through the wooden gate with their equipment.
"I'll start mowing. You two can clear up the grass,"
he ordered, pushing the heavy mower onto the untidy lawn. Nicholas watched patiently as the bullies worked. The rhythmic sound of the lawnmower and the sweet smell of freshly cut grass was quite pleasant. The first drops of rain made them work faster, and they hardly spoke as they carried on working.
"Leave the grass over there in the corner,"
Buster shouted over the noise of the howling wind.
"Hurry up! There's going to be a storm."
He had hardly finished the sentence when a loud noise startled all four of them. Thunder! Large drops of rain fell heavily, soaking them to the skin instantly. All except Nicholas. The thick ash provided an excellent shelter, and he enjoyed watching the three boys struggling with their spades and following the instructions on the map.
"Have you found anything?"
Louis shouted, wiping his face with a damp sleeve.
"No. What about you, Driscoll?"
Buster replied.
"Nothing. And I've got 3 holes already. I'm really wet." "Me too."
The wet earth became heavier by the minute, and Buster was getting tired.
"This stupid spade won't come out of the mud," he cried.
He was getting angrier and angrier. To the relief of his friends, he shouted,
"Let's get out of here. It's obvious that the treasure doesn't exist."
As he turned to go, he stumbled over one of the holes that he dug. Nicholas covered his mouth with his hand. The sight of Buster laying on the ground with his face covered with mud was more than he'd expected. He started laughing uncontrollably. He knew that he couldn't be heard above the noise of the rain. He watched as the boys, arguing amongst themselves, collected up their tools and left the garden. Nicholas couldn't stop laughing. As suddenly as it had started, the rain stopped. Nicholas crawled out of his hiding place. He looked around the garden. It was wet but very tidy. In his haste, Buster had forgotten his spade and had left it sticking out the ground. Nicholas jumped over the hedge to get it, then ran to the front of the house and waited. Finally, the grey clouds disappeared and the sun came out. A blue car, which Nicholas recognized immediately, approached slowly, stopping outside old Simpson's house. The driver, a tall, smart woman with red hair, stepped out of the car and walked towards him.
"Nicholas!"
she called, looking at the mighty spade and smiling.
"Don't tell me that you've already done that job we talked about. You haven't tidied up the garden already, have you?"
"Yes, Miss Simpson," Nicholas replied, wiping his forehead and sighing. The woman walked around to the back of the garden.
"Good Lord, what a wonderful job you've done. And in the rain too, you poor thing."
She continued, putting a hand on his shoulder.
"And you've even dug the holes for my rose bushes, exactly where I wanted them," she exclaimed.
Without hesitation, she put her hand into her shoulder bag and pulled out a small purse.
"Let me pay you at once. I didn't expect you to do such a good job. And all on your own too."
She took out 1, 2, then 3 5-pound notes from her purse. Nicholas gasped.
"But Miss Simpson."
He pretended to be surprised.
"Oh no, I insist. Take it. You've done a very good job."
Thanking her again and again, Nicholas accepted the money and turned to go home. He knew that he would have to avoid Buster for a while. Fortunately for him, a bad cold would keep Buster out of the way for a long time.